Hi everyone, welcome to my short documentary on Williamsburg and how this site uses live interpretation, reenactment, and historic preservation to shape public understanding of U.S. history. I'm Ethan, and today we'll be exploring colonial Williamsburg and how living history shapes the way we understand America's past. So what is Williamsburg, and why is this place so important? Williamsburg is one of the oldest historic sites in America and is situated between the James River and York Rivers. It sits in a historic triangle with Jamestown and Yorktown, both of which are very important colonies and played a central role in defining early American history. Today, the Colonial Williamsburg Historic District spans roughly 301 acres and includes 89 original 18th century buildings. These buildings allow visitors to make meaningful connections to the past by giving insights as to what colonial life may have looked like. Colonial Williamsburg operates as a nonprofit organization supported by the donations and a $600 million endowment, as well as collection of tour fees from guests. Colonial Williamsburg is more than just preserved buildings. It is a living history museum that grants visitors an immersive experience. Visitors at this museum can encounter costume interpreters, browse many colonial-themed shops, and experience mock trials and live performances. At the courthouse, for example, visitors can watch a live trial based on the real story of the last woman accused of witchcraft. Visitors can also watch battle reenactments, costumed drummers, and pass by many interpreters on the streets and in shops. After watching a performance, a guest can go catch dinner at King Stafford's historic building, or explore other buildings in the area that offer self-guided tours and dining. What separates this type of museum from many others is its ability to create lasting memories through experiences rather than displays with captions. For much of the site's museum life, Williamsburg has faced very little controversy, except for in one notable area, and that is its interpretation of Black history. For many years, African American experiences were not adequately represented in the park's interpretations. This resulted in the park receiving complaints for its lack of Black representation in its historical narrative, and as a result, the park leadership began working towards incorporating Black history into its interpretations. In 1994, one of their first efforts to represent Black history resulted in major backlash because the park leadership thought it would be a good idea to have a live slave auction reenactment in which the audience can participate. This obviously sparked major controversy and actually resulted in the NAACP stepping in. Currently, the park does not perform any live reenactments of the negative side of its history, but it does represent Black artists through their I Made This gallery. This includes artwork, artifacts, and historical pieces from throughout the Black community in the park's history. This evolution in interpreting Black history reflects a broader challenge faced by many historic sites, and that is how to responsibly and inclusively navigate representing other groups whose stories were once marginalized. Williamsburg's experience demonstrates how historical representation challenges can be approached by internalizing community feedback. Museums constantly have to make choices about what to show, what to emphasize, or what to leave out entirely. At Williamsburg, slavery was just too harsh to reenact. It can still be represented through the preservation of buildings and artifacts on display at the I Made This gallery. Certain elements are limited to just plaques or specific guided tours. For example, buildings like the slave huts are only open to guided tours, but you can still see them by walking by. Other buildings like the Governor's Palace, the White House, the Randolph House, and the Raleigh Tavern are only open to tours or closed off entirely.
I'm standing in front of the historic Raleigh Tavern, which was built in the 1730s, and we are in colonial Williamsburg, just down the street from the House of Burgesses. This tavern was the site of many meetings among the legislators as well as social events. Such notables as Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and Patrick Henry would have come through here. It burned down and was rebuilt in about 1931, and was the first building in colonial Williamsburg to be rebuilt as part of the historic park.
Museum curation is an important part of historic preservation, as every choice of omission or inclusion can make a huge difference in a visitor's experience. It is essential that these decisions are not made based on bias, rather, that they are made based on creating an accurate and meaningful visitor experience. Curation is a powerful tool because it determines what stories are amplified and what stories are minimized. For a museum like Williamsburg, effective curation is essential for their visitors to gain insightful takeaways about America's national identity. The site, allowing visitors to walk through the spaces that shaped early American history and see historic buildings with plaques explaining their historic background and significance, gives visitors insightful memories associated with American history. Williamsburg was a major hub during the Revolutionary War and actually served as the capital of Virginia at the time the Declaration of Independence was signed. This important history makes the site a vital insight into the early American life and the country's beginnings. Williamsburg is also home to the second oldest university in America, and that is the College of William and Mary. Their notable alumni includes Thomas Jefferson and James Monroe. And Patrick Henry is also from Williamsburg, which reinforces the site's historical significance as a park. By preserving the buildings and history associated with them, the site constructs a shared sense of American identity. Visitors aren't just learning about history, they're experiencing a city where our country formed major political and intellectual foundations. When we take a step back and look at Williamsburg as a whole, it becomes clear that it is more than just a preserved historic town. It's a carefully constructed museum experience with tours, interpreters, and reenactments. The site reveals the importance of representation and demonstrates the challenges of curation. Historic storytelling requires making tough decisions between what to include and what to omit based on public feedback. For historic living museums like Williamsburg, curation determines which buildings are accessible and which events are reenacted. These choices ultimately influence how visitors understand the nation's origins. Williamsburg is one of many sites that build a sense of American identity, and many people travel thousands of miles just to see our country's oldest cities. National identity is not inherited, rather it is constructed through association, memories, and historic understanding. And with that, thank you for watching my documentary.